I've been sitting in my truck for 43 minutes. The engine's off, and the December cold is seeping through the windows, but I can't feel it. Not really. There's a numbness spreading through me that has nothing to do with temperature. My house is right there, 30 feet away. The porch light is on. Nicole always turns it on when she knows I'm coming home. There's a wreath on the door she put up last weekend, and through the front window I can see the blue flicker of the television. My wife is in there. The woman I've been married to for 11 years. And I can't make myself go inside. I look down at my phone again. The voicemail is still there, still queued up, still waiting for me to convince myself I misheard it the first 6 times. I press play again. He'll be going fishing soon. The house will be empty. We'll do it then. A man's voice, deep, confident. The kind of voice that belongs to someone who's never been punched in the mouth. The voicemail is dated 17 days ago. Nicole deleted it. But here's the thing about phones. They don't really forget. Not for 30 days. The carrier stores them, tucked away in digital purgatory, waiting for someone to go looking. 17 days ago, I was at Lake Hartwell with my brother Marcus. 3 days of fishing, cheap beer, and not thinking about work. I came home on a Sunday night to Nicole's smile, her arms around my neck, the smell of those chocolate chip cookies she knows I love. "I missed you," she'd said, pressing her lips to mine. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Now I'm doing the math in my head, and the numbers aren't adding up to anything good. The house will be empty. We'll do it then. The logical part of my brain, the part that spent 20 years calculating load-bearing stress and structural integrity, is trying to offer innocent explanations. Maybe it's a wrong number. Maybe it's about something else entirely. Maybe "do it" means literally anything other than what my gut is screaming at me. But the other part of my brain, the primitive part that kept our ancestors alive on the savannah, knows exactly what that message means. I just don't know if I'm ready to accept it yet. Let me back up. Explain how I got here. It started 6 hours ago at my mother's house. She's 72, sharp as a tack about most things, but technology might as well be witchcraft to her. Her phone had been acting up, missing voicemails from her doctor's office, and she'd called me in a panic. "Kyle, I think my phone is broken. Dr. Patterson's office said they left me 3 messages about my appointment, but I never got any of them." So I drove over, sat at her kitchen table, and showed her the recently deleted folder. Most carriers keep deleted voicemails for 30 days before they're gone for good. "See, Mom, they're all right here. You accidentally deleted them." She clutched her chest like I'd just performed a miracle. "Oh, thank goodness. I thought I was losing my mind." While she went to call the doctor's office back, I pulled out my own phone. Curious. I'd never actually looked at my deleted voicemails before. Didn't even know the feature existed until 5 minutes ago. 3 messages sat there waiting for me. The first was from some solar panel company. Delete. The second was a robocall about my car's extended warranty. Delete. The third was from a local number I didn't recognize. Timestamp: December 8th, 6:47 p.m. Deleted by recipient on December 8th at 6:52 p.m. I almost didn't play it. Almost moved on with my life, blissfully ignorant. But something made me press that button. And then that voice filled my ear. "He'll be going fishing soon. The house will be empty. We'll do it then." I played it again, and again, and again. By the 4th time, my hands were shaking. "Kyle? Honey, are you all right? You look pale." I looked up at my mother, and for a moment, I couldn't remember where I was or what I was supposed to be doing. I'm fine, Mom. Just remembered something for work. I need to go. She tried to get me to stay for lunch, but I was already out the door, my legs moving on autopilot while my brain tried to process what I'd just heard. I didn't go home. Not right away. I drove to the parking lot of a Lowe's about 2 miles from my house and sat there for over 2 hours, staring at nothing, thinking about everything. The old Kyle, the Kyle from before this morning, would have driven straight home and confronted Nicole, would have demanded answers, raised his voice, made accusations. But I'm not that guy. I've never been that guy. I build bridges for a living. Literally. I'm a structural engineer, and my job is to make sure things don't collapse under pressure. You don't do that by being impulsive. You do it by gathering data, analyzing stress points, understanding exactly where the weaknesses are before you make a single move. If my marriage is about to collapse, I need to understand why. I need to know everything before I say anything. So I sat in that parking lot and I made a plan. I finally went home around 7:30. Nicole was in the kitchen when I walked in, stirring something on the stove, and she turned to greet me with that same warm smile I'd fallen in love with 12 years ago. There you are. I was starting to worry. How's your mom? She's good. Phone trouble. Fixed it. You're the best son ever. Dinner's almost ready. I made that pasta you like. I watched her as she moved around the kitchen, chattering about her day, her sister's upcoming baby shower, some drama at her office. She seemed completely relaxed, happy even. No guilt, no nervousness, no subtle tells that anything was wrong. Either she was innocent, or she was the greatest actress I'd ever met. You okay, babe? She'd stopped talking and was looking at me with concern. You seem distant. Long day, just tired. She crossed the kitchen and wrapped her arms around me, pressing her head against my chest. Poor thing. Go sit down. I'll bring you a beer. I held her for a moment, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo, trying to reconcile this woman, my wife, my partner, the mother of no children because we'd decided early on that wasn't our path, with the voice on that message. The house will be empty. We'll do it then. I let her go and went to sit on the couch. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. She always conks out early on Saturdays, some internal clock from her years of getting up at dawn for work. By 10:30, she was breathing deeply beside me, one hand tucked under her pillow like always. I slipped out of bed, grabbed my laptop and went downstairs. Our phone bill is paperless. I manage all our finances, have since we got married. She never showed much interest in spreadsheets and budgets, so I handled it. I always thought that was just a division of labor. Now I wondered if it was something else entirely. I logged into our carrier's website and pulled up the detailed call log for her line. And there it was. One number, appearing over and over again. Calls, text messages, dozens of them over the past 3 months. Short calls, long calls, calls late at night when I was traveling for work. The number matched the voicemail. I stared at the screen for a long time, watching the evidence pile up in neat rows of data. Times, durations, frequencies, a pattern of communication that told a story I didn't want to read, but I read it anyway. Sunday morning, I told Nicole I was going into the office to catch up on some paperwork. She barely looked up from her coffee. On a Sunday? They work you too hard? Big project coming up. I'll be back for dinner. I drove to a coffee shop across town, somewhere no one would know me, and set up my laptop in a corner booth. The number. I needed to know who it belonged to. There are websites for this. Reverse phone lookups, people search engines, data aggregators. Most of them are garbage, but if you're willing to pay, you can find almost anyone. It took me 45 minutes and $32. The number was registered to Derek Callahan. I let that name roll around in my brain, waiting for some recognition. Nothing. Nicole had never mentioned anyone named Derek. Not once in 11 years. I searched social media next. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Derek Callahan, 35 years old, real estate agent at Prestige Realty. Big smile, strong jaw, the kind of guy who probably peaked in high school but hadn't realized it yet. His profile was full of photos with his wife. Amanda, pretty brunette, looked tired around the eyes, and their 2 young kids. Married, 2 children, lives in our town, and apparently intimately familiar with my wife's phone number. I sat back and took a sip of my cold coffee, trying to piece together the connection. And then it hit me. We bought our house 4 years ago through Prestige Realty. Our agent was a woman named Barb, older, motherly type, retired about 2 years back. But she would have had associates, colleagues, people who might have taken over her client list. I dug through my email until I found our old real estate paperwork. There, in the CC line of several messages, Derek Callahan, associate agent. He'd been on the edges of our home purchase. I vaguely remembered meeting him once, maybe twice. Forgettable handshakes and professional smiles. 6 months ago, Nicole had mentioned calling the realtor about property values in our neighborhood. One of her coworkers was thinking of buying nearby and wanted to know what houses were going for. I hadn't thought anything of it at the time. Now I was thinking about it a lot. Monday morning, I called into work. I need to take a few personal days, family stuff. My boss, Frank, was understanding. Everything okay? Yeah, just some things I need to handle. I've got 3 weeks of PTO saved up. Take what you need, Kyle. You've earned it. I told Nicole I was driving to a job site 2 hours away, a bridge inspection that would take several days. She kissed me goodbye without suspicion. Be safe. Call me tonight. I will. I parked my truck 3 blocks from the dental office where she worked and waited. For most of the day, nothing happened. She arrived at 8:45, went inside, and didn't emerge until lunchtime when she walked to a sandwich shop with a coworker. I watched through binoculars I'd bought at a sporting goods store on the way over, feeling like the world's saddest private detective. At 4:30, she left work. An hour and a half earlier than she'd told me she'd be home. My heart rate spiked as I followed her, keeping a careful distance, grateful for the generic silver color of my truck that blended into traffic. She drove to a coffee shop on the east side of town. Not a Starbucks, some local place with a pretentious name. Bean and Gone. She parked and went inside, and a few minutes later, a black BMW pulled into the lot. Derek Callahan stepped out. He was taller than I expected. Better dressed, too. The kind of guy who probably spent more on his haircut than I spent on groceries. I watched him walk inside. Through the window, I could see him approach Nicole's table. She stood up to greet him. They hugged. Not a quick, friendly hug. A hug that lingered. I took out my phone and started taking pictures. For the next 90 minutes, I documented everything. The way he leaned across the table toward her. The way she laughed at whatever he said, throwing her head back like he was the funniest man alive. The way his hand found hers and stayed there. My wife. Holding hands with another man. In public. Not even trying to hide it. When they finally left, I followed Derek instead of Nicole. I wanted to see where he went. He drove home. A nice house in a nice neighborhood, bigger than ours, newer than ours. A woman was visible through the front window moving around the kitchen. Amanda, his wife, the mother of his children. I sat outside for 20 minutes, watching him walk inside and greet his family like he hadn't just spent an hour and a half holding my wife's hand. Tuesday was worse. Nicole told me she was working late. I followed her to a hotel on the outskirts of town, the Clearwater Inn. Not fancy, not seedy, just anonymous. The kind of place people went when they didn't want to be remembered. Derek's BMW was already in the lot. I parked where I could see the entrance and watched Nicole walk inside. Watched her climb the exterior stairs to the second floor. Watched her knock on the door of room 214. The door opened, and she disappeared inside. I sat there for 2 hours and 17 minutes. I know because I watched every second tick by on the dashboard clock. When she finally emerged, she paused at her car to check her hair in the mirror, adjusted her blouse, applied fresh lipstick. Then she drove home, where she'd later tell me about the busy day she'd had at the office. Wednesday, I went to the hotel instead of following her. The desk clerk was a kid barely out of high school, more interested in his phone than his job. A $100 bill changed that. Room 214? Yeah, that one gets booked every Tuesday. Same guy. Been going on for, 4 months? Pays cash. Tips okay. Description? Tall dude, dark hair, drives a nice car. Derek Callahan. Every Tuesday for 4 months. I had my confirmation. The affair was real, but the voicemail still haunted me. The house will be empty. We'll do it then. If they'd been sleeping together for 4 months, why did Derek need to know my fishing schedule? Why did it matter if our house was empty? Why use the phrase, "We'll do it then"? As if they'd been waiting for the opportunity? Something else was going on here. Something beyond just an affair. And I was going to find out what. That night, I lay awake for hours, listening to Nicole breathe beside me. The question that kept circling in my brain wasn't about the affair itself. That wound was deep, but I'd find a way to deal with it eventually. People survived infidelity. They moved on, rebuilt, found new lives. No, what kept me awake was simpler than that. What didn't I know? Because that voicemail didn't sound like two people planning a romantic rendezvous. It sounded like two people coordinating, strategizing, treating me like an obstacle to be worked around. He'll be going fishing soon. Not Kyle's going fishing, not my husband will be out of town. Just he, dismissive, dehumanizing, like I was furniture, like I was a problem to be solved. What else had she told him about me? What else were they planning? The next morning, while Nicole was in the shower, I took a look at our finances. Really looked, for the first time in months. At first glance, everything seemed normal. Checking account, savings account, credit cards, all where they should be, all with expected balances. But then I remembered the home equity line of credit we'd opened 2 years ago. We'd told ourselves it was for emergencies, roof replacement, major car repair, that kind of thing. We'd never touched it. Or so I thought. I logged into the account and felt the blood drain from my face. The original credit line was $60,000. The current balance owed was $47,000. Someone had been systematically withdrawing money for the past 5 months. $3,000 here, $5,000 there, always in amounts just under the threshold that would trigger automatic alerts. Every single withdrawal was in Nicole's name. $47,000. Gone. Taken from our home equity without my knowledge or consent. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred, and something fundamental shifted inside me. The hurt I'd been carrying transformed into something colder, harder. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was robbing me. I spent the rest of that day following the money. The withdrawals had been transferred to a savings account at a bank we didn't use, an account I'd never seen before. I found the reference in one of Nicole's emails. She'd left her laptop logged in, trusting me not to snoop. The irony wasn't lost on me. The account was in her name, and Derek Callahan's name. A joint account, opened 5 months ago. Current balance, $52,000. I read that number several times, making sure I hadn't added a zero by mistake. 52,000. The 47 from our HELOC, plus 5,000 from Derek's side. They were pooling money. I kept digging through her emails, feeling like a surgeon cutting into a patient, finding cancer everywhere I looked. They'd been researching properties in Arizona, sending each other Zillow listings, calculating mortgage payments, talking about starting fresh. And then I found the email that made everything click into place. From Nicole to Derek, dated 3 weeks ago. Once the divorce is final and I get my half, we'll have enough for the down payment. He has no idea about the account. By the time he figures it out, we'll already be gone. I read that email until I had it memorized. Every word, every punctuation mark. My wife was planning to divorce me, to take half of everything we'd built together, and then disappear with her lover to start a new life in Arizona, funded by money she'd stolen from me. The voicemail wasn't just about sex in our empty house. It was a celebration, a milestone in their plan, a moment to revel in how thoroughly they were going to destroy me. I closed the laptop and sat very still for a long time. The old Kyle would have exploded, would have confronted her that night, screamed until his throat was raw, thrown things, made threats. But I wasn't the old Kyle anymore. I was something new. Something she'd created by lying to me for months, and I was going to make her regret every single moment of it. The law offices of Whitmore and Associates occupied the top floor of a small building downtown. The receptionist, a young woman with a professional smile and knowing eyes, led me to a corner office where Janet Whitmore was waiting. She was in her early 50s, gray-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun, reading glasses perched on her nose. The kind of woman who probably scared opposing counsel into settlement before cases ever went to trial. "Mr. Brennan, sit down. Tell me everything." So I did. The voicemail, the surveillance, the hotel records, the hidden account, the emails about Arizona. She listened without interrupting, taking occasional notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me over the top of her glasses. "You've done good work, better than most. But here's the reality. In this state, marital assets are split 50-50 in divorce. Doesn't matter who cheated, doesn't matter who lied. 50-50. So she wins. She steals $47,000 and gets to walk away with half of everything? I said that's the default, not the only option." Janet leaned forward. "There's a concept called dissipation of marital assets. When one spouse uses marital funds for an extramarital affair, hotels, gifts, dinners, whatever, the court can credit those funds to the other spouse. The cheater effectively pays back what they wasted on their lover. And the hidden account? That's where it gets interesting. What your wife did. Opening an account in secret, funneling marital assets into it without your knowledge or consent, that's fraud. If we can prove she intended to hide these assets, the court can award you all of it. Plus, she'll lose credibility with the judge, which matters when we're arguing about how to divide everything else. How do we prove intent? Janet smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. We give her rope to hang herself. You mentioned she doesn't know you've discovered any of this. Keep it that way. Go home tonight and casually mention that you're thinking about refinancing the house. You want to pull together all your financial documents. See how she reacts. And if she panics? If she panics, she'll try to move the money somewhere harder to find. And when she does, Janet tapped her pen against the desk. We'll have proof of intent in real time. Time-stamped, documented. The kind of evidence judges love. I nodded slowly, absorbing the strategy. What about him? Derek Callahan? What about him? He's part of this. He helped her open that account. He's planning to run away with her and my money. Mr. Callahan is another woman's problem. Yours is Nicole. Stay focused. She was right. But I couldn't help thinking about Amanda Callahan, that tired-eyed woman I'd glimpsed through Derek's kitchen window. She was living my nightmare without knowing it. One more thing, Janet said as I stood to leave. Don't tip your hand. Don't change your behavior. Don't confront her. Don't accuse her. Don't act suspicious. Right now you're holding all the cards, but only if she doesn't know you're playing. That night, I played my role perfectly. We sat across from each other at dinner, Nicole telling me about something that happened at work, some conflict between two of the hygienists that she thought was hilarious. I laughed at the right moments, asked follow-up questions, performed the part of attentive husband. And then, as casually as I could manage, oh hey, I was looking at interest rates today, thinking we might want to refinance the house. Could save us a few hundred a month. I'll pull together all our financial documents this weekend, figure out where we stand. I watched her face, watched for any flicker of panic. Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth, just for a moment. Then she recovered. That's a good idea. Let me know if you need help finding anything. Will do. That night, she spent hours on her phone, typing messages she thought I couldn't see. Her fingers moved with the urgency of someone managing a crisis. I pretended not to notice. The next morning, I set up alerts on the hidden account. Thanks to her emails, I had the account number, the bank, even the login information. A few clicks, and I'd get notifications for any transactions over $100. Then I went to work like nothing was wrong. At 9:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Alert. Transfer of $50,000 from account ending in 4471. She'd done it. Moved the money. Created a new account at a different bank, one in Arizona, in her name only. I sat in my truck, staring at that notification, and felt something that surprised me. Peace. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Just peace. Because now I had everything I needed. Now I could destroy her. I sat outside a park for almost an hour before Amanda Callahan arrived. I'd sent her a message through social media the day before. We need to talk. It's about your husband and my wife. I have proof. She'd responded with suspicion, then anger, then reluctant agreement to meet. When she pulled up in her SUV, a mom mobile covered in school stickers and crushed goldfish crackers, I could see her hands shaking on the steering wheel. I got out of my truck and walked to meet her on a bench near the playground. Two strangers, about to share the worst kind of news. You're Kyle, she said. Not a question. I am. Thanks for meeting me. Just say what you came to say. So I showed her. Photos from the coffee shop, screenshots of text messages, hotel records, the joint account. Amanda didn't cry. I'd expected tears, but what I got was something rawer. She stared at the evidence like she was reading her own death sentence, and then she laughed. One bitter, broken sound. I knew. Part of me knew. How long? I suspected something for months. He's done this before, twice that I know about. I stayed for the kids. Told myself I could survive anything if it meant they had a father at home. She shook her head. But this is different. They have a joint account. They're planning a life together. In Arizona. Arizona. She repeated the word like it was poison. He's never even mentioned Arizona to me. I waited while she processed, watching a pair of kids chase each other around the swing set. Their mothers chatted nearby, oblivious to the two people on the bench whose worlds were falling apart. There's more, I said finally. Derek's been using your money too. Her head snapped toward me. What? I don't have the details. I only know about my side of this. But if Nicole pulled $47,000 from our home equity without telling me, I'd bet anything Derek has been doing something similar. You should check your accounts. All of them. That night, Amanda texted me. You were right. $35,000 gone from our savings. He moved it 3 months ago. Derek wasn't just cheating on his wife with mine. He was robbing his family to fund their escape plan. Amanda and I talked for hours after that. Phone calls, text messages, planning. Two strangers united by betrayal, coordinating what came next. We would file for divorce on the same day. Same hour. Blindside them both before they had a chance to coordinate their stories. We would share evidence, combine resources, support each other through the legal warfare ahead. Two spouses, two cheaters. One unified strategy. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. Janet Whitmore assembled my case file with surgical precision. Every photo, every document, every timestamp arranged in a narrative that painted Nicole as exactly what she was. A liar, a thief, and a fraud. Amanda's attorney, a bulldog named Marcus Webb, did the same on her end. I kept playing my role at home, acting normal while Nicole grew increasingly anxious. The money had been moved, but she sensed something was off. She started asking questions about my mood, my work, why I seemed distracted. Just a big project, I told her each time. You know how it is. She wanted to believe me, so she did. Meanwhile, I quietly gathered more evidence. I found credit card charges for lingerie I'd never seen, hotel dinners I'd never eaten, a weekend spa trip with her sister that corresponded perfectly with Derek's schedule. Every transaction told part of the story. Every receipt was another nail in her coffin. When the day finally came, I left for work like any other morning. Kissed her goodbye. Told her I loved her. She said it back. And for a moment, just a moment, I almost felt bad for what was about to happen. Almost. At 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, a process server walked into the dental office where Nicole worked. At the same moment, another process server walked into Derek Callahan's real estate office. Both were handed divorce petitions. Both were informed that their assets had been frozen pending emergency court orders. Both tried immediately to call each other, and neither could answer because they were both dealing with the shock of their lives. My filing was comprehensive. Petition for divorce citing adultery. Motion for unequal distribution of assets due to dissipation and fraud. Emergency motion to freeze the Arizona account. Request for forensic accounting of all marital finances. Subpoena for all communications between Nicole and Derek. By 10 a.m., the Arizona account was frozen. $50,000, locked away where Nicole couldn't touch it. By noon, my phone was blowing up. 17 missed calls from Nicole. 11 text messages ranging from confused to pleading to angry. I responded to none of them until late afternoon, when I sent a single message. All communication through attorneys now. She came home that evening looking like she'd aged 10 years. I was sitting on the couch, waiting. "Kyle, please. We need to talk about this. Whatever you think you know." "I know everything, Nicole. The hotel, the account, the emails about Arizona, the $47,000 you stole from our home equity." I kept my voice flat, emotionless. The voicemail. That last word hit her like a physical blow. I watched the color drain from her face in real time. "What voicemail?" "Phone store deleted voicemails for 30 days. Did you know that?" I didn't. Not until recently, but once I learned, I stood up, grabbing my jacket from the back of the chair. "I've already moved my things to my brother's place. The court order says we both have to stay out of each other's accounts until the judge reviews everything. You'll receive documentation of all the evidence my attorney has compiled." "Kyle, I was going to tell you—" I stopped at the door, turned back to look at her one last time. "You were going to tell me you drained our home equity to run away with your boyfriend. When exactly were you planning that conversation?" She had no answer. I didn't expect one. I walked out and didn't look back. Derek's downfall came faster than I expected. I'd filed an anonymous complaint with the State Real Estate Licensing Board, documenting his previous civil fraud case and his current financial misconduct. It turned out I wasn't the only one he'd cheated. 3 other former clients came forward with similar stories once the investigation began. His license was suspended within 2 weeks. Just like that, his entire career evaporated. Without income, Derek panicked. He hired his own attorney, separate from any coordination with Nicole, and started positioning himself as the victim of a manipulative woman who'd seduced him into terrible decisions. He threw her under the bus without a second thought. The man Nicole had given up everything for, the man she'd planned to spend her life with, abandoned her the moment things got hard. I'll admit, that part felt good. Nicole's deposition was a masterpiece of self-destruction. Her attorney had advised her to plead the fifth on financial questions, standard strategy when you're guilty and everyone knows it. But in civil court, refusing to answer can be used against you. The judge could infer she had something to hide, so she tried to lie instead. The joint account was for household expenses. Kyle knew about it. Janet produced the emails. The ones where Nicole explicitly wrote, "He has no idea about the account." The ones where she discussed hiding money from me, draining our home equity, disappearing to Arizona before I figured out what happened. Nicole's attorney tried to object, but the documents were authenticated and time-stamped. There was no explaining them away. I watched my wife's credibility collapse in real time. Watched the judge's expression shift from neutral to contemptuous. Watched Nicole realize finally that she wasn't going to charm her way out of this. After the deposition, her attorney pulled her aside for a hushed conversation. I couldn't hear what was said, but Nicole's body language told me everything. Shoulders slumped, head down, the posture of someone who knows they've lost. The settlement negotiations were brutal. Nicole's position had collapsed completely. Her attorney advised her to settle fast. If this went to trial, she risked losing everything and potentially facing fraud charges. The hidden account, the perjury at deposition, the dissipation of assets. It was all documented, all undeniable. My demands were simple. I keep the house. No buyout owed. I keep my retirement accounts untouched. Nicole forfeits all claim to the hidden $52,000. The court awards it to me as compensation for the HELOC she drained. She pays my attorney fees. No alimony. Her counteroffer was laughable. She wanted the house sold and split. She wanted half my retirement. She wanted the Arizona account divided. Janet's response was perfect. We'll see you in court then. I'm sure the judge will enjoy hearing more about your perjury. They settled 2 days later. She took everything I demanded. The final hearing lasted less than an hour. The judge read through our settlement agreement, asked a few clarifying questions, and granted the divorce. Simple as that. 11 years of marriage dissolved with a signature and a stamp. In his closing remarks, the judge looked directly at Nicole. In 20 years on the bench, I've seen many cases of marital betrayal. But the calculated financial fraud in this case is particularly egregious. The respondent showed a pattern of deception that undermines the very foundation of marital trust. She left the courtroom crying. I watched her go with nothing inside me. No satisfaction, no anger. Just emptiness where a marriage used to be. I found out about Derek's third woman almost by accident. Amanda had kept digging after our divorces were finalized. Something about needing to know the full truth before she could move on. She found records of another affair on a laptop Derek had hidden in his home office. A relationship that overlapped with Nicole's. Sometimes on the same days. While Nicole was cheating on me with Derek, Derek was cheating on Nicole with someone else entirely. I probably should have kept that information to myself. Should have let Nicole figure it out on her own, or never figure it out at all. But something in me, maybe the last remnant of my anger, or maybe just pettiness I'm not proud of, wanted her to know. So I told her. Not in person. Just a simple email with the evidence attached. No commentary. No gloating. Just the facts. She tried to contact me afterward. Left voicemails I didn't listen to, sent messages I didn't read. Eventually, she stopped trying. I heard through the grapevine that she confronted Derek, that there was a scene at a restaurant, that security had to be called. I heard they haven't spoken since. The man she destroyed her life for was never faithful to her for a single day. I sold the house 6 weeks after the divorce was finalized. Too many memories, too many ghosts. The new place is smaller, a townhouse closer to my brother's neighborhood. 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, a tiny backyard where I'm thinking about putting in a vegetable garden. It's not much, but it's mine. Just mine. I started therapy not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand. How did I miss the signs? Was there something I could have done differently? Could I have saved my marriage if I'd paid more attention? The therapist, a patient woman named Dr. Reyes, helped me see that the failure wasn't mine to own. Nicole made choices. Derek made choices. They built their betrayal piece by piece, decision by decision, while I trusted and believed and went fishing with my brother. Trusting your wife wasn't a character flaw, Dr. Reyes told me. It was her job to be trustworthy. She's the one who failed. I'm still working on believing that. I heard updates about Nicole through mutual friends who didn't know enough to keep quiet. She's living in a 1-bedroom apartment on the wrong side of town. Same job, but everyone knows her story now. This place is too small for secrets. Her parents won't talk to her. They're devoutly religious and see her as having brought shame on the family. Her sister still speaks to her, but things are strained. She's alone. I'd be lying if I said that didn't bring me some satisfaction. But mostly I just feel tired. Tired of thinking about her. Tired of caring about what happens next. Derek's doing worse. His license was permanently revoked after the additional complaint surfaced. Amanda took him for everything in the divorce. The house, primary custody of the kids, 60% of his retirement. Last I heard, he's selling used cars on commission at a lot outside of town, living in an apartment smaller than Nicole's. He never made it to Arizona. Amanda and I stayed in touch. Nothing romantic. We're both too damaged for that right now. But there's a bond between us that's hard to explain. We survived the same storm. We understand each other in ways no one else can. She sends me a text every now and then. Updates about her kids, her new business, the life she's building from the wreckage. Last Christmas, she sent a card that made me laugh for the first time in months. Here's 2 deleted voicemails. It's been almost a year now. I'm at a coffee shop near my new place, not been and gone, anywhere but there, reading emails on my phone when a woman approaches my table. Is this seat taken? She's maybe mid-30s, brown hair, kind face. She's holding a book in one hand and a latte in the other, looking around at a cafe that's packed to capacity. I gesture to the empty chair across from me. All yours. Thanks, I'm Sarah. Kyle. We end up talking for 2 hours. She's a veterinarian at an animal hospital nearby, just moved to town 6 months ago, doesn't know many people yet. She laughs at my terrible jokes, the genuine kind of laugh, not the performative one I'd learned to recognize in Nicole. She doesn't know my story. To her, I'm just a guy at a coffee shop. Not a victim, not a survivor, not someone who spent months dismantling his own marriage. Just Kyle. It feels good. When we finally get up to leave, she hands me her card. In case your non-existent pets ever need a checkup. I have been thinking about getting a dog. There you go. Perfect excuse. She smiles and I smile back, and for a moment, everything feels possible again. My phone buzzes as I walk to my truck. A voicemail notification. For just a second, my chest tightens. Muscle memory, Pavlovian response. But I check it anyway. Marcus's voice. Hey, you still coming fishing next weekend? We're leaving Friday morning. Let me know. I lean against my truck, looking up at a sky that's finally, after a year of clouds, starting to clear. Then I type my reply. Yeah, I'll be there.